Harrison Ford's career is the kind of Hollywood story that feels almost too good to be true. A carpenter turned global superstar who ended up playing two of the most iconic characters in cinematic history. It's like winning the Hollywood lottery twice. Let's kick things off in the early 70s. Harrison Ford wasn't exactly killing it in Hollywood at first. In fact, after a few small roles and a rather unremarkable stint in 1973's American Graffiti, where he played Bob Falfa, a leather jacket-wearing hot rodder, Ford went back to carpentry to pay the bills. Yep, the guy who would one day be Indiana Jones was literally building cabinets. And here's where it gets wild. While working as a carpenter, he was hired to install cabinets in George Lucas's house. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. Lucas remembered Ford from American Graffiti and later invited him to read lines with actors auditioning for his quirky little space movie. That movie? Star Wars. Ford wasn't even supposed to audition, he was just helping out. But his dry, sarcastic delivery as Han Solo made Lucas realize he was perfect for the role. And boom, Harrison Ford became Han Solo, the galaxy's most lovable smuggler. But it almost didn't happen. Al Pacino was offered the role of Han Solo, but turned it down because he didn't get the script. Can you imagine Star Wars with Pacino shouting, "Chewie, say hello to my little friend"? No thanks. Star Wars was, of course, a massive, unexpected hit. George Lucas thought it was going to flop so badly that he skipped the premiere and jetted off to Hawaii with his buddy Steven Spielberg. While chilling on the beach, Spielberg confessed he always wanted to direct a James Bond movie. Lucas countered, "I've got something better, an adventurer in the style of the old serials." And just like that, the seed for Indiana Jones was planted. Now, initially, Lucas didn't want Ford for Indy. He was worried about working with him too much, fearing it would turn into another Scorsese-De Niro situation. So they first offered the role to Tom Selleck, but fate had other plans. Selleck was locked into his Magnum PI contract, leaving the door wide open for Ford, and thank goodness for that. Raiders of the Lost Ark back in '81 wasn't just a hit. It cemented Ford as the ultimate action-adventure star. That hat, that whip, that fear of snakes, it's all legendary now. While Ford was riding high on Star Wars and Indiana Jones, he wasn't just about blockbusters. In 1982, he starred in Blade Runner, Ridley Scott's dystopian sci-fi masterpiece. At the time, Blade Runner was a bit of a commercial dud, but it became a cult classic over the years. And here's a fun tidbit. Ford and Ridley Scott reportedly clashed a lot on set, and Ford wasn't thrilled with the movie's infamous voiceover, which he intentionally delivered flatly, hoping it wouldn't make the final cut. Spoiler, it did. And for decades, fans debated whether Ford's character, Rick Deckard, was actually a replicant, a question that still sparks heated discussions today. Then came Return of the Jedi, wrapping up the original Star Wars trilogy. Ford famously wanted Han Solo to die, thinking it would add emotional weight to the story, but Lucas vetoed the idea. Han lived, Ewoks danced, and Ford moved on until The Force Awakens, when he finally got his wish for Han's swan song. In between galaxy hopping and tomb raiding, Ford proved he could do more than action-adventure. Witness in '85 scored him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. It's a slower, more thoughtful film about a detective protecting an Amish boy who witnessed a murder. It showed audiences that Ford had range. He wasn't just a blaster-slinging space cowboy, but Ford couldn't stay away from action for too long. He donned the fedora again for the Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade. The latter paired him with Sean Connery playing Indy's dad, even though Connery was only 12 years older than Ford. Hollywood math, right? And here's a fun behind-the-scenes fact. During the filming of Temple of Doom, Ford herniated a disc in his back, performing stunts, and had to fly to LA for surgery, only to return to set weeks later and finish the movie like the absolute legend he is. The 90s brought another wave of hits. In The Fugitive, Ford played Dr. Richard Kimball, a man wrongly accused of killing his wife, leading to that epic manhunt with Tommy Lee Jones. The train crash scene? Pure 90s action gold. And Ford's one-liner, "I didn't kill my wife," is still mimicked to this day. Then there was Air Force One, where Ford, as the US president, growls, "Get off my plane," before booting a terrorist, played by Gary Oldman, out mid-air. It's over the top, it's patriotic, it's peak 90s action, and it's glorious. But here's the thing. Ford's career could have looked very different. He turned down some major roles that went on to become iconic in their own right. Take The Untouchables in '87. Ford was considered for Elliot Ness, but passed with Kevin Costner ultimately stepping into the role instead. Then there was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where Ford was offered the role of Eddie Valiant, but reportedly balked at the price tag, meaning we got Bob Hoskins playing the tune-hating detective instead. Ford was also approached for Ghost, yep, that Ghost, to play Sam Wheat, but he declined. Patrick Swayze ended up making cinematic history with that pottery wheel scene. The same year, Ford was also in the running to play Jack Ryan in The Hunt for Red October, but he turned it down, only to pick up the Jack Ryan mantle a few years later in Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger after Alec Baldwin moved on. And get this, Ford was considered for Jim Garrison in Oliver Stone's JFK, but passed with the role going to, yep, Kevin Costner again. That's twice Costner swooped in. Then there's the first Jurassic Park back in '93. Spielberg offered Ford the role of Dr. Alan Grant, but Ford thought the script wasn't quite for him. Sam Neill took the role, and the rest is dinosaur-sized box office history. The movie ended up being the highest-grossing film of all time, until Titanic came along to sink that record. But perhaps the biggest what-if? Schindler's List. Spielberg wanted Ford for Oscar's Schindler, but Ford felt his star power might distract from the gravity of the story. Liam Neeson stepped in, earning an Oscar nomination and solidifying the film as a modern classic. Still, even with those missed opportunities, Ford's filmography remains unmatched. He's the guy who can smirk through a blaster fight, outwit ancient booby traps, and still have audiences hanging on every word. And here's the kicker, he never chased fame or awards. For Ford, it was always about the work. He wasn't the type to parade around Hollywood, and maybe that's exactly why audiences connected with him. He brought a kind of grounded authenticity to roles that could have easily veered into caricature. Off-screen, Ford is as much a character as any he's played, part grumpy, part hilarious, and endlessly cool. His interviews are legendary for his dry wit and zero tolerance for Hollywood nonsense. And then there's his love of flying. He's a licensed pilot who's had a few too many close calls in the air, including a 2015 crash landing on a golf course. He walked away with minor injuries because, of course he did. Han Solo doesn't go down that easy. Through it all, Ford has kept a grounded, no-nonsense attitude about fame and his legacy. He's not big on the glitz and glamour, preferring his ranch in Wyoming over Hollywood galas. But despite his low-key lifestyle, he's one of the most bankable and beloved actors in film history. Think about it. Han Solo, Indiana Jones, Rick Deckard, the President of the United States. That's a resume most actors would kill for. And Ford pulled it off with a kind of effortless cool that made audiences root for him every step of the way. Harrison Ford isn't just a movie star, he's the movie star. And even now, decades into his career, he's still the guy you want flying your plane, cracking the whip, or gunning the Millennium Falcon into hyperspace. Because when it comes to iconic film heroes, nobody does it quite like Ford.